Today on the Life Science Success Podcast, I'd like to welcome Kelly Malloy and Reed Mclaughlin. They're both from Anju Software, and we're going to talk about medical affairs and Anju Software. Welcome, Reed. Welcome, Kelly.
Hey, Don. Thanks for having us.
Hey, Don. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of a different layout for than most of our shows. I normally do one-on-one interviews, so I have to do a little bit of balance back and forth between the guests, and we'll do that as we go along. So, Kelly, can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Don. I always hate this part because I don't like introducing myself. I actually make Reed do it when we're on demos and stuff with clients. So,
well, we could do that. We could always roles here.
We could. I'll save him the embarrassment. We won't put him on the spot. But thanks again for the opportunity to join you. My name is Kelly Malloy. I have about 15 years experience in the life sciences industry. I started off on the MedCom agency side as a project manager, and then about 10 years ago made a transition over to technology, data, and analytics. And I've been working in this space ever since and love it. So that's great. And then prior to that, I was in community behavioral health and in manufacturing as well as project manager. So really have a background in project management and been able to use that throughout my career.
Quite a journey. And how about you, Reed?
Sure. Thanks, Don. Thanks again for having us. My name is Reed Mclaughlin, currently the Senior Vice President of Sales and Customer Success here at Anju Software. I'm a born and raised Bostonian, but I've lived in Tampa, Florida, as well as currently reside just outside of Chicago, one of our offices here. So I've been in the industry about 13 years. Kind of grew up with medical information, and now have kind of spanned into the full medical affairs suite. Prior to that, talk about a journey. I was actually a school teacher and a coach in a previous life, and then have worked in sales and customer success in different industries. So definitely found a home within pharma and technology.
Well, I could see the coach role kind of playing a lot, especially whenever it comes to software. I see a lot of implementations across a lot of our different clients as well. And, so for sure, there's a bit of coaching that has to go along with that as well.
Yeah, of course. So
what does Anju Software do?
I can take that one. I'll help balance the load, Don, if you will. Anju Software is a technology company. So as the name suggests, we produce software for the life sciences industry. We really partner with life sciences organizations to enable their business processes and really their missions overall. And we do that by providing, really capable point solutions that and valuable business insights that help them drive better decisions, that help them create better clinical and medical outcomes for patients. So that's really our mission and our vision is to help enable our life sciences customers to do just that. We have 3 divisions. So Reed and I are in medical affairs, oddly enough. And we also have an eClinical division, and we have a data division as well. So all of those divisions really dovetail nicely. We have a comprehensive software solution that will allow us to integrate across the board and then infuse the data that we glean from, many different parts of the industry, public data, private data, into our customers' business processes. So that's in a nutshell what we do. Reed, did I overlook anything?
No, it was great. No, you hit it nail on the head.
All right.
Perfect. And I guess in terms of, the areas of the business that you touch, all of it definitely sounds like it ties all the way from, the clinical research that somebody might be doing all the way through to the final delivery of the product. Is that true?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And, one of our taglines is from molecule to retirement, right? So we really can provide software solutions from phase 1 trials, preclinical, all the way through to commercialization of the product and getting the KOLs of who you want to talk to through our data repository, and as Kelly mentioned, through the rest of our medical affairs solutions with publication planning to medical information.
Yeah, I'm also curious too, how have you seen this broader industry view impact kind of how the life science industry is changing as well?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think in the last 12 years that I've been in the industry, I mean, one of the main changes, and I think everybody can see, is technology, right? Technology has, has changed greatly. We've gone from on-prem solutions to the cloud, right? Which is something that, was a great buzzword, the last, 10 years. So, from a medical affairs and specifically medical information, getting information electronically into the system, eliminating double data entry in any of our applications is key. But truly, the crux of what we do hasn't changed. We're just trying to make it more efficient and leveraging that technologies that's at our hands.
Yeah, I mean, it is important given the amount of data that's coming at all of us, I would imagine. And, the more that we can leverage the information that's in front of us, hopefully the quicker we can get from molecule to clinical trial to,
Right.
out into the patient that we're looking to serve.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's key. It's key to try to get with the right fit, get with the right company that can, you can grow with, right? From that small 10, 20 person company to, thousands of people.
So I've also heard you describe that there's been a shift in medical affairs being a cost center to being a strategic pillar. Can you describe that a little bit to our listeners?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to take that one too. And it's, when thinking about that and reflecting on that particular point, it's more about medical affairs just being well positioned. They're the connective tissue of any organization, right? To use a life sciences term. Our colleagues in medical really have the backgrounds and expertise to be able to talk to people in the clinic, to talk to people, on other sides of the business, really understand the data. So they've become the natural owners of that data, the natural caretakers of that data. And, that just represents a fundamental shift. It was very siloed before, but now we see like a lot of confluence between the different departments and functional areas within life sciences, and medical affairs is really at the nexus of all of that activity. And it's because they're well positioned because of their backgrounds. And they talk to everyone internally. They can talk to external stakeholders as well, including HCPs and patients. So again, really, I think what was a cost center before and more about output is now, I think, being seen in a new light because they bring, such value to the organization, and they can help advance outcomes. And, not just about, the number of publications that we put out or the number of medical information inquiries that we manage. It's more about impacting, patient outcomes, and medical is really well positioned to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting given the shift with COVID especially, but even some of the new treatments. I mean, whenever I think of, next generation sequencing and how sensitive it is, as an example, just the critical role that medical affairs does play, in sort of communicating, what is happening.
Sure.
Is a very critical role today. And I could see that, there's definitely a shift going on, and seeing how bringing that to light is even more and more important.
Right. And I mean, to further that point, Don, they really are able to create an impact just beyond a product, really, and beyond an intervention. They can really help a company or an organization drive impact to an entire therapeutic landscape, just depending on what their expertise is, right, and where the company wants to play. But we're looking beyond just the product itself and really trying to make an impact in a therapeutic area for patients.
And how does Anju Software help their clients move quickly and efficiently with the correct information? What does that mean?
Yeah, so I mean, it really kind of comes with the getting information into the system, any of our systems, as quickly and efficiently as possible, right? We understand that if we go back to that old adage of a cost center, the higher ups are looking at the medical affairs department as money, and so time equals money. How can we make our systems as adaptable to their business process, allow them to get their jobs done, get information out to their stakeholders, to their customers, the consumers, safely, right? But yet as quickly as possible. So things like, just the user interface, right? And integrating with other external sources, self-service portals, right? Those are things that we've adapted to at the response to our customers, response to the industry, saying we want to get information on our own. So we've really adapted to the need of our customers, and have had great success by it.
Yeah, such an important point, especially, I mean, given the remote nature of a lot of us now, and just wanting to be able to get quick access to things, it is absolutely critical. I've also heard recently I interviewed somebody who has reps going in and out of doctors' offices, and so Tom Heck in an interview recently had said that they're having trouble even just getting people into offices, and it sounds to me like your software would just make the information more readily available, which would then maybe not even facilitate a need to go into the office.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, we have HCPs that are being told, hey, come to visit our website, search for what you're looking for. If you don't find it, you can submit a request directly on that website, which goes directly to a medical. You can chat with the person. Again, I always go back to, we're never going to take away the human interaction, which is going to be the number one. But if I'm going to just send you something, there's no reason why I can't just let you come and get it.
Yeah, for sure. And I've heard you say before that Anju can help organizations facilitate easy feedback on publications. How does your software facilitate that?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that integration piece, right? So these days it costs a lot of money to produce publications upwards. Like, I can't account for the hidden costs, but you're laying out about 50 grand to produce a publication in your organization's time, in what you're paying medical communications agencies. That's a lot of money. And quite frankly, there are a lot of studies that show that people aren't reading them, right? So you get about 8 readers that'll read a publication from beginning to end if they're a scholarly publication, and that's obviously the ROI there is pretty poor. But what I like to see or what I think is the most important part of our suite of products is that they integrate with one another, so that I can move a publication once it's completed directly to our medical information system, and we can make it readily available for folks on the MI side to use in standard response letters, or to cite in standard response letters, use as enclosures, and then get information back on the impact of that publication. So we can capture a lot of feedback from our MI teams in how they're using this publication, who may have seen it, and that gives us just an additional measure of impact of the pub. So we're getting a lot of altmetric visibility, information coming from websites when there's been an e-publication, but the missing metric is really how our teams internally are using that publication as well, and that just kind of completes the picture. So just important to have that level of integration between your different functional areas within life sciences. And it really does give you insight and drives better decision making, both in MI and in scientific communications as well.
So I'm going to stick on this one just for a second. So, I mean, in terms of like the data that you're getting back, I know, let's just say on the podcast, I get information about, the region and, how long people have spent, listening and things like that. So I get
millions of people, right? Millions.
Right. Especially given this one, we will have millions for sure. I just, it's really interesting data to get back, and it definitely drives my behavior in terms of, sort of the number of, the types of guests that I have, or the way that I'm trying to promote the podcast and other things. Are you seeing the behavior of the individuals publishing information now also shift to try and shape, what they're sending out, or is it primarily used for other reasons?
No, it's primarily used for that reason. Having that connection between medical information and publications really does inform the publication strategy. And sometimes you don't want to say strategy, it's, mostly about the data. But if there are questions that are coming in from the field that we don't otherwise have visibility to in scientific communications, that's really valuable information. So maybe it prompts us to go back and look at the data. It prompts us to go back and create a publication around the data that we've gleaned in a clinical trial to answer a specific question. Are there just fundamental misunderstandings about what's happening in the therapeutic area that might suggest one type of intervention over another? These are all questions that would come in through MI, could be interpreted by scientific communications, and would be used to inform their overall go-forward strategy.
Yeah, one thing just to piggyback on that, not to cut you off, Don, but
no.
All of that is made possible within Anju with our data visualization tool, right? So we do, and again, just a little plug for that, right, is that our data visualization module sits across all of our applications. So customers that are using PubStrat and they're using IRMS, they have the ability to bring that data into one central repository and get those insights, right? Which again, loops back to providing that value. How am I going to my senior management and proving that I am actually providing this value? I got this data for you. You were able to create X amount of more publications that drove X amount of revenue, right? Without having this, without having us as a department and this solution, these solutions, would never have happened. So it's nice to be able to, get all that data in one spot and then be able to disseminate it where appropriate and where necessary.
Yeah, again, the only way that I can sort of, relate directly back to this is with the podcast itself.
Right.
And I would say, the one thing that I've seen is by bringing podcasts and video, we get more viewers and things like that. And so it's definitely, one reason that led me there. I could definitely see inside of, pharma companies or medical device companies, again, this playing a key role, in terms of decision making for, how do we invest more than to kind of lead back to, more sales and possibly just more understanding of the use of your product at the end of the day.
Correct.
Right. And people will, I think, particularly in medical affairs, be not only like concerned peripherally with sales, but most importantly with patient outcomes, right? So they're driving patient outcomes. They want to use the insights that they're gleaning from the use of our software to drive patient outcomes ultimately. So that's fundamentally what we're doing in medical affairs. That's what they're most concerned about. And, when we're talking about an analog universe, right, that's not possible. So going back to some of our earlier conversation, all of this is possible with the use of technology now. Things that we weren't able to see or understand are now ubiquitous, and we're using these tools in everyday life, and it's really just driving, as you were saying, Don, just terabytes of data. It's just overwhelming amounts of information. But if you know what questions you need to ask your business, you know where to go for the data, you're going to be able to glean those insights rather easily now, and then be able to apply them to, future strategy.
Yeah, and I guess another twist that I would give to that as well is that, so I'll go back to a startup that I was recently with. We had extremely limited resources everywhere, and every limited resource we were applying to different things. And so, I can say for medical affairs, I was asked at one point, could you create a full database of all the articles that list all of our articles and all of our competitors' articles so we could quickly go through those. And it's because they had to examine them to try, and medical affairs had to examine them to try and figure out, where do we necessarily need to lead our material so that we're playing in kind of the same space. And I would think data is extremely valuable. I mean, even if it is terabytes. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So in terms of like company size, because again, I have listeners probably, from the very small company size to the billions of dollar in revenue company size that listen. So just curious, sort of where does Anju play in those markets, in the life sciences space?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say we're all over the board. People always ask, how many of the top 20 pharma do you have? And across all of our products, I don't have it, but we probably have 12, 13 of the top 20. But I always like to say is there's only 20 top 20 pharma, right? So you only have so many large pharma companies out there. We play mostly in the mid-market, small to mid-market. There's lots and lots of people in that position. We work with a lot of clinical research organizations. But again, we are very much apt to work in the large pharma arena. Our technology scales and it's proven over years, right? Some of our technology and our solutions have been around since 1989. So we have lots of longevity. Lots of people have used it. But yeah, absolutely. We're all over the board.
And when somebody comes to you and they come to Anju to try and solve a particular problem, what is the problem that you hear most often that they have?
Oh, I can jump in here. I think it's trying to do more with less, right? So it's always trying to optimize the resources that you have. And as Reed was saying, there's only 20 top 20 pharma. If you're playing or if you're in sort of the mid-tier or you're a startup, you're always going to be, I don't want to say struggling for resources, but that could be a limitation of your team. So the need for you to leverage technology to do some of the more mundane things becomes even more apparent. And that I think is really where we help with that. So you can deploy technology to do some of the things that maybe larger companies are paying an actual person to do. And and it's not the same cost as an FTE. You deploy the technology, you get the benefit of having more time in your day as an individual to do the higher order thinking. You let the technology take some of the grunt work, and then you're also, getting the benefit of insights from using that technology. I don't know, Reed, what?
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, I think it's doing more with less is absolutely what we get a lot is we have a small staff. We want to be able to get this publication, or we want to be able to handle medical information or manage, document our KOL interactions. We're doing them by spreadsheets. They want to be compliant. I'd say that's another one that people are, climbing into, is that we don't want to be fined, right? How can you help us not be fined? How can we be more compliant and keep our data safe, because our data is sacred, right? It's, we don't want it getting hacked or being accessed by people that shouldn't have access to it.
Yeah, all important reasons for sure. And then, why would somebody select Anju Software over anybody else? I don't know of other players necessarily in this space, but
don't mention them.
I'd say outside of working with Kelly and I on a routine basis, there's definitely more benefits than that. We're definitely, we've talked about the term adaptive, right? Our solutions can fit within anybody's ecosystem. So we don't pretend that you're going to come and we'd love you to and say, we want all Anju products, but we know that we can fit in somewhere, and using our integration, our bus technology, we can really play in anybody's ecosystem. I'd also say that, we all came from, I'd like to say mom and pop type shops, although we've gotten quite a bit bigger, and we still like to say that we're a big company. We bring that small company feel, right? You do, in a sense, talk to Kelly on a routine basis. You talk to myself, you talk to other senior managers within the organization. And we all come from it, right? We all have been in the industry doing or have worked with very strategically with people that are doing their job. So when someone's asking about publications, or and Kelly gets on the phone, that she's sat in their seat before, I'm talking, or my team's talking about medical information. We've worked with hundreds of medical information teams and helped implement systems that we can share our experiences with them, which is really what I think drives customers to us. Sure, you can go to the bigger players, the gigantic orgs that are out there, publicly traded companies, right? But you're not going to get that type of service that we provide.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'll just add to Reed's point there. It's I think one of our greatest advantages as a partner and what we bring to the table is that empathy quotient, right? So we're in there, as Reed mentioned, we've walked a mile in your shoes. We employ people that not only understand the industry, but how our products are used on a day-to-day basis. And that really translates into a solid product strategy and then great products for our customers. So we're not necessarily taking an inside-out approach where we all huddle in a room and try to come up with solutions that are going to be applicable across the board to our clients. We're listening. We've worked in those areas, those functional areas of medical affairs and pharma more broadly. And then we're applying that expertise in how we talk to customers, how we get feedback, and then how we translate that feedback into the product itself. So
yeah, that partnership is so critical. I mean, I've seen kind of a shift as well in many of my clients where they've, previously gone with, larger groups because they thought, hey, look, they're going to have core knowledge and be able to walk in the door and just drop in whatever their solution is and have it work. But what they've quickly found out is that, their organization is unique and they need somebody that can be a quote unquote partner, to your point, Kelly. And without that partnership, it just it becomes such a almost like an oil and water tumultuous kind of relationship where they're constantly entering tickets and waiting for people to respond, and they really want that partnership at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So there are 3 questions that I like to ask every guest. Kelly, what inspires you?
Oh, wow. My answer is so simple. It's my kids, it's my husband, my family. I wake up every day and I'm just so grateful that, I have them in my life, and they're what my mother-in-law calls, I'm quoting my mother-in-law now, my reason. She's actually flying in to see us this evening. So, but they are my reason. So.
Very good. And you, Reed?
Yeah, well, of course I have to say my family. But honestly, it's very similar, but it's worth working with others and being of service, whether it's in my professional life or, in some of the, organizations I belong to. It's a key foundation of what I believe in. And, you can't do this alone, and just making sure I'm of service to other people and working with others when I can.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And Reed, why don't you continue on? What concerns you?
So, the thing right now is I have 2 teenage daughters, so lots, right? But, the biggest thing is I'd say, the 24-hour news that is now available and what's available at their fingertips at any time. I think they have pretty good heads on their shoulders, but just in general, having the ability to read and see whatever anybody wants to, put out there into the ether, and really just trying to make sure that there's open lines of communication of what's right and what's wrong, what's facts, what's fiction, is definitely something that we work on consistently. But it's definitely concerning because you can see where it doesn't get worked on and it can really blow up.
And it's so hard overall as an adult, sorting through, what's
Sure.
right and what's wrong, or what's real and what's not. And just growing up in this age, I'm sure that they're going to, I feel like future generations are going to come up with better solutions than we have for how to make those decisions. So
Yeah, that's right.
hopefully. Kelly, what concerns you?
Oh, well, gosh, like Reed, lots of things really concern me. And I was really trying to put a pin on what's top of mind right now for me. So I'm the mother of 2. younger children. I don't have teens like Reed, and then I have one on the way. And I think it's the pandemic, right? And how it will ultimately resolve, and whether or not we're being smart enough to extrapolate learnings from this time, from this experience, into future experiences, to help mitigate all of the issues that we've had, the past 18 or so months.
All the answers are on the internet. All the answers are on the internet.
All the answers I have just haven't been looking, actually. But yeah, I think it's the pandemic, and then, whether or not to get the kids vaccinated, what that looks like. So there's just a lot of, there's a lot of choices that you need to make as parents, and you want to do the right things for your kids. And I think that's Reed's point as well. But if I had to pick one item, that's kind of top of mind for me right now.
Well, first of all, congratulations. Big
Thanks.
news on the podcast. Yeah, I agree. I think, it obviously is something that's more and more concerning is, how do you protect your family? And, I know whenever the pandemic first hit, and I think I've mentioned this on previous episodes as well, I was the first person to come back and say, well, they're not going to shut everything down. How could they do that? And all of a sudden, we started to see it, across the United States. And, I think we all learned a lot of very concerning lessons, about kind of where our own mindsets were, but also, we're learning even more about others as we go along.
Absolutely.
And what excites you, Kelly?
Oh, me again. Okay, fun. Again, so many things. But if I really had to boil it down, I go between work and kids. We had a big sales conference, and everybody needed to tell everybody else what their hobbies were. And I was like, I feel kind of stupid. Like, I don't do anything. But honestly, work excites me, and working for an organization that has such an important mission and vision. So we're not in there, we're not administering the clinical trials, but on those really tough days to come back and to look at what we're really enabling is important for me. And that's what's exciting. And being able to do this with folks like Reed and other people that we have within Anju is really special. So.
Very good.
Top that, Reed.
And you, Reed.
Yeah. So what excites me, it's similar to what inspires me, right? I there's nothing about my job I like more than working with people, or anytime I'm working with people in a group. I'm definitely not a loner, by any stretch. And then, also kind of I try not to project too far into my future, right? Try to live in the day, but later in life, getting back into the day-to-day of, working with kids, working with others in coaching, or some capacity, that really gives me, some excitement to think about the future.
That's got to be a tough thing right now. I mean, coaching kids has got to be a really tough thing to do in the midst of the pandemic. But,
Sure.
Also, I think in general, and this kind of goes back to teenagers as well, is that, just, being with them and kind of understanding, that their life is not really what they expected either as of right now either. So, yeah.
Talk about adaptable. They're much more adaptable than we are. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Reed and Kelly, for joining me on the podcast. I greatly appreciated your time and for telling us all about Anju Software and what you do.
That's been a pleasure. Thanks, Don. Look forward to next time.
All right. Thanks so much.
Take care.